So Kawhi Watch 2019 continues. We are no closer today than we were yesterday or the day before to knowing whether Kawhi Leonard will re-sign with the Raptors for next season or lay down roots somewhere else, the LA Lakers being the other big contender. But either way, it's been a wild ride that has turned this city upside down. Just a couple days ago, there was the buzz that a private jet owned by the company that runs the Raptors was flying from LA and touching down here in Toronto. And maybe, just maybe, Kawhi was on board. Then there was a local news chopper tracking the convoy's every move straight to a hotel where maybe Kawhi was firming up a deal. But then today, that private jet leaving Toronto, landing in San Diego. Had any hope of a deal fallen apart? Was Kawhi heading back to California for good? Or was that plane picking up Kawhi's family and friends to come back to Toronto because Kawhi has decided to stay? Of course, all of it just baseless speculation, at best wishful thinking. But hey, that's what this frenzy around the King of the North has become.
So hey, we've assembled a great panel to try to game out some of this. I'm joined by Sportsnet host and writer Donovan Bennett, Harrison Sanford here with us, the co-host of the podcast Inside the Green Room with Danny Green, who's also in free agency right now.
Yes, he is.
And so he's also waiting with bated breath to figure out what Kawhi Leonard's going to do. Yeah, and we've got Parminder Singh joining us as well, the Punjabi voice of the NBA. You do play-by-play.
Thank you.
For those games. So Donovan, maybe I'll start with you. Just you look at the hype meter, where are you sitting right now on 1 to 10? 1 is you're just sick of this, you just want it to be over. 10 is you're exploding and you can't wait.
I mean, the hype meter is broken. If there was a Richter scale for hype, this exceeds it. I feel a little bit differently. One, I feel a little embarrassed, right? That some of the news reports that we've seen outside of hotels talking about how many exits there are and whether or not he may have snuck out and
it's a bit much.
what the flight plan could or could not have been. Journalistically, I feel a little bit embarrassed, but I also feel on edge because covering him, this team, this league, my life, our lives will change dramatically as soon as he signs and depending on where he signs. So if you think Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster, president and GM respectively, the Raptors really want this answer. President and GM of my household, my wife really wants this answer because literally we're all waiting and on standby to see what Kawhi decides.
Are we surprised that it's taken this long to come to a decision?
No, if I was Kawhi Leonard, I would take this long as well. I mean, look how long it takes me to pick a Netflix movie. Sometimes it takes a while. So I'm not surprised. I mean, they won the finals. If they would have lost in the second round, the Eastern Conference Finals, but they won the NBA Finals, they had the parade. He's a calculated man by everybody's own admission. And then if you even look back to his college career, they said that when he committed to San Diego State, he just showed up in the gym. The team couldn't get in contact with him for 2 weeks. Right. So he just showed up there. So I am not surprised. Am I happy about it? No. But not surprised.
Can I push back on the term long, though?
Go for it.
Because realistically, when we look at the big decisions, Kevin Durant came on July 4th. LeBron James made decisions on July 10th, July 14th. Just because $3 billion were spent in the NBA in the first 90 minutes, we think that it's long. But this is true to the course for someone who's making a lifetime decision.
Okay, well, maybe you don't think it's long in the grand scheme of things. Let's run this clip here that we've got. This is from Kilimanjaro.
All right, some blood, sweat, and tears went into this one, but finally made it to the top of Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
Just after Canada Day, I know Kawhi, he just won us a championship, made us a proud Canadian. If you're going to stay, that'd be awesome.
Boardman gets paid.
Boardman gets paid.
What is it about Kawhi Leonard? I mean, this guy in particular that has driven people insane. I mean, because it's more than just the fact that he led the team to a championship.
Now, this is unprecedented. I mean, for Canada on itself, the only team in Toronto, and to have the whole nation behind Toronto, and then the lead man or the board man, Kawhi Leonard here, and I think fans. I think this truly speaks to the essence of how much the game of basketball has kind of developed in Canada. Yeah. And I come from a hockey background. I used to say Toronto's a hockey town. I don't think I can say that anymore. Without questioning how explosive basketball is here, and the fact that everyone is so focused on this, it's huge and very calculated. I think this is very exciting times.
And getting any information has been like trying to squeeze blood from a stone, right? I mean, and Kawhi is a pretty private guy as well, so maybe it's understandable that there haven't been any leaks. But I mean, explain for me, Harrison, from what you know, I mean, and you've got connections with Danny Green, of course. So what are the kinds of conversations that are happening behind closed doors? When you look at the meetings between Kawhi and the Lakers, Kawhi and the Clippers, Kawhi and the Raptors.
Well, if you're Kawhi Leonard, you need to figure out how this team was going to look, not just for the next season, but for the entirety of his prime. He's entering his prime. He just turned 28, I believe. And if he signs a 5-year deal, we're talking about to 32 years old. Those are the best years of his basketball career, or supposed to be at least. So while you have a player like Pascal Siakam, who's merging, is going to be a great player for them, Kyle Lowry is going to come off the books next year. Marcus Gasol is going to come off the books next year. Serge Ibaka is going to come off the books next year. These are major players who could potentially not be back with the team.
Right.
But Masai and Bobby Webster, it's upon them to say, hey, Kawhi, this is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to do it. And at the same time, too, and this is one of the more interesting things when it comes to Kawhi Leonard, we've seen his character start to show throughout the course of the season. So now he's trying to build for the future, but at the same time, that might mean turning away players that helped him bring out his personality.
Right.
You saw how he bonded with Kyle Lowry. But if you're trying to build for the future, Kyle Lowry's probably not the point guard for the future. How do you say goodbye to somebody who helped you embrace yourself and embrace your personality in front of an entire country? It's a very difficult thing to navigate because you don't want to upset him, but yet you have to encourage him about what you can do in the future.
And so if you're trying to divine the outcome out of all this, I mean, how much are you reading between the lines? You look at the fact that, he met with the Raptors last, reportedly, among all three meetings. I mean, what do you see there?
Well, I think that's just usually what happens when any time a major free agent meets with a team. The incumbent team is always going to have the last word.
Right. And does that give the Raptors an advantage in this particular?
I would think it gives them the advantage because Masai Ujiri is one of the better front office people in the entire league. So I would imagine that helps out. Yeah. And I would imagine him coming back from California to Toronto would be a good thing as well.
If he was indeed on that plane. Yeah. A lot of question marks around that.
A lot of question marks around that. No, but I could tell you that he was. He has been in town. So he did make that flight here. Now, did he leave today? I don't know. Nobody really knows. But I do think it's a big sign for them that he did come back in town, because if his mind was truly made up about the Lakers, hey, you guys can come check me out in LA, but I don't need to. Caravan is still far ways away. So,
no kidding.
So he doesn't need to be here just yet.
And Donovan, are you? I mean, what are you reading in the tea leaves? I mean, when you look at all the little pieces, whether it's the jet, the to and fro from to the Hazleton, the hotel, and back again, and who knows?
Well, I talked to Masai Ujiri about this decision for Kawhi earlier in the year, and the bet was not, am I going to get to speak to him last or first? Really, we got to speak to him for an entire year. We got to recruit him for an entire year, and he knows us, we know him. And we look at the psychology of a player, someone who lost his father at a young age, who his circle is really tight, that's just family. The biggest thing that he wants is trust. So that the Raptors have been able to earn his trust on the court, but with his physical health, I think, to me, puts them in the catbird seat.
Everyone and their dog has a prediction as to how this is all going to end. And let's just give you a cross-section of what that looks like.
The insight into Kawhi Leonard is very difficult, to actually get.
What I'm 99% hearing is that Kawhi Leonard will be returning to Toronto.
For me, with Kawhi Leonard, the Lakers become very, very hard to beat. And do I go back to San Antonio? Didn't he request to be traded from there? Mm-hmm. And where did he request to be traded to?
The Lakers.
But if he went to the Lakers, it would just be against everything that I know about this guy.
Okay, so it's go time. Boys, I want predictions. Parminder.
No, listen, if we talk about this man, Kawhi Leonard, international man of mystery here, but very calculated, very high IQ, basketball IQ, you name it. And you're right, it talks about the methodical executives of the Raptors and how consistent the Raptors organization has been. There's a lot of questions around Lakers, Magic Johnson, whatever's been happening there. Is he walking into turmoil, or is he going to stay with something that's consistent? And he may stay.
So you think Raptors?
I think he stays as well. I think it's a very difficult decision for him. I think playing at home in California is something that he wants to do. But I think as time is going on here, I think he's learning that staying with the Raptors is probably the best thing for him. The medical staff, the trust that you have, and things of that nature, it's overwhelming evidence that he should probably stay, especially also, too, LeBron James is a great player, but LeBron James should be past his prime right now. Now, I know he's playing at an incredible level almost all the time, but if you evaluate your future, and LeBron James is a heavy part in it, and he's at his age he is now, it's a very difficult decision to make, and I would lean towards the Raptors, but then again, it is the board, man. So.
Donovan, you talked about trust. Do you think trust wins out? Yeah.
Listen, I know literally nothing, right? So who cares what I think? But let's look at what he has said. His opening press conference, he said he wanted to be healthy and he wanted to win a championship. Check for Toronto. And we also know he wants his privacy, so Toronto, just chillax, right? Let's not ruin it for him.
Yeah, although you look back at the last few weeks, I mean, Toronto's not exactly the mellowest city.
Yeah, the chopper, like, can we calm down just a little bit? But I will say that winning the championship in this city, regardless, he's a made man in this country, but when we talk about We the North, the fact that Damon Stoudemire, Marcus Camby, and Chris Bosh, and Vince Carter, and Tracy McGrady, Americans all left, and it's why we have an inferiority complex and why We the North really started. If Kawhi stays, I think it changes that entire perception, even more so than the championship.
Does the whole team change if Kawhi comes back, or does it stay more or less the same for the next season?
For the next season, it probably does stay the same. Yeah. I mean, the one person who could change is Danny Green. Obviously, he could stay, but then at that point, if Kawhi does stay, then Danny Green's going to have to look at his options, because at that point, all three teams that have been mentioned, that we mentioned in the podcast, the Mavericks, Raptors, and Lakers, are all on the table. Right. And at that point, he really has to decide what's the best for not just this year, but for his future.
Right, so there's no certainty that Danny Green stays with the Raptors if Kawhi decides to stay with the Raptors.
That is true. I mean, he would love to. I know he would. Yeah. But at the same time, he's 32 years old, just turned 32. He has to think about what his career is going to be like when he's age 35, 36. Is there a team that, I doubt it, there's a 4-year deal out for him? But maybe when he has so much leverage with 3 teams trying to get after him, maybe he's able to get a 4-year deal out of this Kawhi domino situation. Right. So who knows?
And the best chances he has, I guess, with Danny Green would be returning to Toronto in terms of championship if Kawhi does sign. And the other thing, I guess, just to go back to your point about the notoriety of Toronto and Canada, what Kawhi has done, I think, is, you had 48 states cheering for Toronto Raptors, but you would see a lot more players wanting to come here rather than what you've seen in the past, where players have left Toronto and they've badmouthed the country or Toronto itself. But here, I think he's really created an environment where you are more welcoming of new talent. So it would be very interesting to watch.
And the final word from each of you: if Kawhi does stay, the Raptors favorites in the East, favorites to win it all? I mean, what are we saying here?
Nick Nurse had 20 different starting lineups last year. The group that ended up winning the championship only replayed 27 games. I think this team we saw in the playoffs, they got better over time. So, yeah, I actually like them more so next year than I do this year.
I agree with that. And Pascal Siakam's a player that got a lot better throughout the course of the year. Somebody who didn't get to play in the playoffs, OG Anunoby, should be able to come back next year. I think they would have to easily be the favorites, especially with the Bucks not being as good.
Well, delay the Lakers enough so they can't sign anyone else.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Toronto Raptors, maybe. Toronto Raptors, guys. There we go.
Well, now we wait, I suppose. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.